Hey guys, and welcome to the show. Today I would like to talk a little bit about Mao culture, about hentai, and specifically about young girls in anime and the evolution of their sexualization of these young girls. I'm hoping, rather than to ignite a whirlwind of fiery and completely inappropriate passion from the fan base, but rather I'm hoping that we can sort of use this to have a little bit of self-analysis, have a bit more self-awareness, and realize that this is a serious issue and why. The sexualization of children, as many should know, is wrong. Yeah, we do have groups in the real world now, like NAMBLA, and groups like the Safe Schools Coalition here in Australia, who are trying to sexualize our children, who are trying to interject sexual identity into these kids before they sort of come to learn what it is for themselves on their own personal journey. So now more than ever, it's important that we really sort of look at what we are taking in as consumers and how that is and is not affecting us. I'm gonna, for the newer viewers, you're probably not going to remember this, so sit back and try and keep up. But we're going to go back to the early works of Tetsuka. We're going to go back to the days of Astro Boy. Now, I understand that Astro Boy wasn't as big over there in the United States, but it was very large here in Australia. It was one of the early morning shows, and anyone who watched the 1980 series or the earlier series from the 60s, again, and even the 2000 series to a lesser extent, but the early series will know Astro's sister, Uran, probably one of the most endearing characters in all of anime. She is a tomboy, she is a troublemaker, she is her own person, and she's trouble, okay? But she is most famous for constantly showing her panties. She doesn't flash them to anyone like that, but her skirt is short, and she clearly has no regard for being ladylike or demure or anything like that. Now, the reason for this is not any sort of sexual thrill. It's not anything particularly like with Mao today, with the panty shots and the upskirts. That was never the point. Rather, it was to illustrate the innocence of a young girl who did not want to be ladylike, who wanted to be like a young boy. She didn't have time to cover up and be subtle, and she didn't wear trousers because she was still dressed in a skirt because she was a girl. That was part of her gender identity, part of ultimately who she was. Now, if, like in the later series, you masculinized her design and gave her trousers and sort of gave her a more boyish appearance, you sort of took away from the experience. Now, I don't know if many of you experienced this or remembered it, but back when I was a young child, 4 and 5, we would play in the sandpit with the girls, and it wouldn't be uncommon that you would see up their skirts. It wasn't a sexual perversion thing. It was just they would sit at weird angles, and that's how it was. You would see their jimmies, and it wasn't a big deal. The same way that sometimes guys would get their shorts wet, and you would have to change your shorts and stuff. This was part of being a child. Okay, there was nothing inherently sexual about it. It was just the way it was. Sometimes guys would make fun of each other's underwear, and again, in the United States, understand you have gym now, where you're sort of coming in to understand that experience. Now, the problem with Mao, the problem with the incestuous culture of sexualizing these young figures is that you ignore that innocence. That you're ultimately doing yourself harm by viewing things through that lens. See, we can all view the world through rose-tinted lenses. We can all sort of decide, you or I, that, well, from my point of view, things sort of are this way. But that doesn't necessarily make it true for a shared experience. Part of the most important part of humanity, a part of being here in this world, is togetherness, is human empathy and understanding. For that, we have to understand that these children are innocent. Okay? They are not sexual objects. They are not to be objects of desire. Now, if you're one of the people that are attracted to these young, cute sister types, and you enjoy the panty shots like in series like Sky Witch and such, where their clothes are barely painted on and it's constantly upskirts and constantly perversion, you might think, well, what right does he have to call what I like perversion? What right does he have? Well, if that's how you feel, then I implore you to just click the dislike button and move on. But if you really think that you are open to other people's experiences, if you want to better yourself as a person and understand why I'm saying this, stick around and we'll get there, okay? Because I'm not saying this to hurt you, I'm not saying this to pick on you. I'm trying to help educate you, I'm trying to help you understand and grow so that you don't get trapped into that otaku lifestyle. Because otaku was a serial killer who ate women. It's not a fun little I like anime culture, okay? You can't take back serial murderer cannibal and make it cool, okay? And it's all tied together. So basically, the situation that we have is all linked to desensitization. Okay, you don't realize it, but try and think of your sexuality and what you like as a roller coaster. Okay, the first time you take, you're like, oh wow, oh my gosh, everything is new, everything is exciting. It's this big, wild whirlwind experience, and you can still get that same rush from other roller coasters each first time you do it. But the more you do the same roller coaster over and over and over again, the more dopamine that needs to be released from your brain, the less of a thrill you get, the less intense it sort of is. This is the nature of sexuality. This is the nature of addiction. So when we have such an entrenched concept as Mao, which is now bled into series which were otherwise very sort of idealistic, like the Macross franchise, for example. What you have is you have the breakdown of expectations, the normalization. Uh, it's what cults call indoctrination. Okay, you're being indoctrinated into this, and what's happening, whether you realize it or not, which is why I'm trying to give you the self-awareness. Because many, and it's nothing wrong, many are very young when it happens. Many of you don't realize that you're being indoctrinated. But what happens is, you see the young girl, and you think, she's really nice and sweet to that guy, and I'm lonely, and I wish I had a little sister or someone like that. And then they make it sexual, and it introduces the idea, well, maybe I could have a little girl as like a little sister, and she could be my girlfriend. I could fill two voids that are missing in my life: my need to nurture and my need to have sexual companionship. And if you are not aware that these are two very different desires, it's very easy to allow them to mingle into and try and draw a sense of fulfillment from that. Then you'll find that it will just continue through. Now, I'm sure that those of you that are familiar with me from before, from other anime sites and stuff, are thinking, but you like Gonagi, and that has like tentacle monsters and rape and like murder, and I just want to say that it is possible to like these things without seeing them as sexual. Okay? See, I see the institutionalization of rape within series like Violence Jack as a cautionary tale. This is a realm without law, with the lowest common denominator of humanity, where people like you and I must now kill to survive, where the strong and brutish thrive, but the more humble are extinguished, taken advantage upon, and preyed upon. Again, this is a cautionary tale. I don't sit there and frantically masturbate to it. I don't think that this is amazing or look for that in a partner when I'm looking for someone. And if you don't have the ability to separate these two things, you can end up in a very dark and strange place, because it is human nature, it is how our brains are wired, okay, to desensitize us to this, to to allow ourselves to become indoctrinated to it, which is what has happened in Japan with Mao. Now, this is largely because they can marry as young as 12 years old over there. So, for them, the sexual taboo is not as high as where most Western audiences are. But just because something is not taboo in one culture and is in another does not mean that the other culture is superior. The culture, okay? The culture. Our culture in the West, which is about nurturing and protecting innocence and serving the family unit, might not be exactly the same as the Japanese culture, which is about, well, it is also family driven, but it is about accountability and responsibility more than it is about nurture. Okay? You are responsible to care for your children. You are responsible to care for your wife. You are responsible to measure up. And if you don't, that is a mark on your personal honor. Now, in our lives, there's not really a lot of self-assessment with personal honor. Okay? A lot of people can talk all tough because they've seen all of the shonen series and be like, "Well, I'm a great hero," but not many people really do it. It's very easy to let yourself slip. And to bring this back, just to bring this back full circle now that we've gone on that little bit of a journey, we're going to go back to the point of innocence. There is nothing wrong with loving innocence, to seeing a little girl playing with a balloon and smiling. As a filthy cis-white scum male, I've received numerous nasty looks for just smiling or laughing at a kid as they have fun in the main street, but I have no shame in that. And I'm not saying that you should have shame in finding these male characters to be interesting or endearing. But when the sexualization occurs, when these characters are being presented as sexual tools, you will try to justify to yourself, well, she's not really a little 6 or 8-year-old girl, she's a 300-year-old vampire, so it's okay. But these justifications are not okay. It does not matter that she in the story, it says that she's 300. If you are telling your brain that you are sexually aroused or interested in these young girls, then you will need more and more and more and more. There are anime YouTubers who are seemingly very great people, but have become so entrenched in this ideology that their walls are lined with 8-year-old girls, where they make videos about the different types of the different types of Mao and the different types of all of these women they love, and they don't realize that they are alienating everyone in the world around them. You know, like if they were to meet a young woman and she was to come into their room, she would be immediately put off by what she saw, because her instincts are to find a strong mate, find someone who she can relate to, find someone who she can care for. And whereas there are, of course, women who are very much into this sort of thing, it is not the standard, and it is not healthy. Okay? It is not, because nurture and sexuality must be separate. You can nurture someone that you love and have sexual feelings towards, but you should not be feeling sexual feelings towards these younger girls. Okay? Especially if you are like me, you're in your 30s, they don't look like someone you went to school with anymore. Now, I understand that there are differences and that love will find a way, but these are exceptions rather than the rule. If your mobile phone is full of little girls in bathing suits, then you have to take some accountability for yourself, because it might be legal, but that doesn't make it right, and it will ultimately hurt you. It has hurt the medium, it has hurt the industry, and it has lowered the quality of the products that we are now receiving. Self-awareness is the key to actually having the understanding you need to measure and monitor yourself. I wish everyone all the best I hope that we can continue to enjoy innocence without the sexualization of young children, without the institutionalization of this sexualization, and I hope that we can all, gay, straight, bi, whatever you want to be, can come together in understanding that this is a journey that we ourselves take and decide who we will be, rather than a political stance, rather than a something we must inflict upon others, be it through the predation of children or through radical Marxist ideologies. I hope that in the future, as I make more of these videos, I can get better at this, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm sorry if I offended anyone, but sometimes that's the first step to improving yourself. I ultimately want all of my viewers to have a rich and fulfilling life. I hope that we can continue to enjoy anime. I hope that the quality of the anime improves, and I hope that none of you get arrested for pedophilia, which is happening on startling increase. Just something to think about.